Among the Gorosei, there's one person who clearly gives off a completely different vibe. And that's everyone's favorite, Nasujiro. While the other Gorosei all wear black suits, he's the only one who's always dressed in a white kimono. And during the moment when they try to assassinate King Cobra, everyone else reached for a pistol, but he placed his hand on a sword. It's pretty obvious there's strong Wano Kuni connection there. So here's the connection I've come to. Nasujiro's original personality has been overwritten by the deep sea contract with Imu. Meaning, he probably had a Wano-style surname just like Kozuki, Shimotsuki, or Kurozumi families, a name rooted in Japanese. But at some point, he was taken to Holy Land and began using the name Eden Bottom. And I believe this traces all the way back to the Void Century. So in this video, using recently revealed information about the contract that only 13 chosen individuals can form, I'll be breaking down the mystery of Nasujiro, the connection between Wano Kuni and the world government, and everything we can deduce from reading the original Japanese version of One Piece. By the way, if you joined the previous live stream, on LunaPienArt channel here, you may have noticed. I prepared the theme song for Dawn Dusk channel. I always display the wanted poster of Dawn Dusk published members at the end of my videos, but from now on, I'll be adding original music as well. And if you happen to be a music artist and you are making tracks inspired by One Piece battles or specific scenes, and if you want to share them and get reactions, feel free to message me anytime. For now, I'll be playing the tracks I prepared one by one, so definitely check around and enjoy. Until now, the power of the Gorosei and the God's Knights have been completely shrouded in mystery, but on this channel and Dawn Dusk channel, ever since Egghead, I've consistently argued that these kind of abilities come from contracts made with Imu, and now the main story has finally confirmed it. There are 3 tiers of contracts. The lowest tier, the Shallow Sea Contract, Senkai Keiyaku, and above that, to higher tiers that only 13 chosen individuals can form the Deep Sea Contract, Shinkai Keiyaku, and the Deep Sea Contract, Shinkai Keiyaku. If we analyze abilities shown to so far by the Gorosei and God's Knights, we can clearly see the difference between Deep Sea and Deep Sea tiers. First, the abilities granted to members of the God's Knights appear to be the ability to gain an undying body and the ability to pass through the abyss. They are most likely effects of the Deep Sea Contract. Then above that, we have the Deep Sea Contract, the one Gorosei themselves seems to have formed. In addition to the power just mentioned, the Gorosei also possesses the true ageless bodies. While the God's Knights visibly aged over the past 38 years, the Gorosei show no sign of aging at all. On top of that, they have the ability to transform into yokai-like forms, and when they transformed, the narration panel did not describe it as a devil fruit ability. So it's very believable that their transformation powers were granted directly by the Deep Sea Contract. That's the big difference. Shinkai Keiyaku, Deep Sea Contract, Undying Body plus Abyss Traversal, and Shinkai Keiyaku, Deep Sea Contract, all of that plus true agelessness and yokai transformation. But there's one exception, Gunko-chan. Even though she's a member of God's Knights, she appears to have been given the same ageless body as Gorosei. She looks almost exactly the same as she did 38 years ago. And if the woman who served as Imu's attendant 56 years ago was also her, then she was already ageless back then, which means she may have formed a contract on the same level as the Gorosei themselves. And as many of you already know, there's a strong possibility that the Gunko's memory have been rewritten. When she attacked Brook, we saw her clutch her chest in pain, and right after that, fragments of memory surfaced inside her mind. And Brook was there in those memories. On top of that, she sometimes behaves like a genuinely pure, innocent girl. The way she lights up when she eats something delicious feels completely different from Gunko we know as a member of the God's Knights. This suggests that her memories may have been altered, or her personality might have been completely rewritten. And that's most likely a result of the deep sea contract. Right now, Gunko identifies herself as a member of the Mammayer family, but if she originally knew Brook, then her birthplace was probably somewhere in the West Blue, which means she later became one of the Imu's favorites, as I explained earlier in this video, and was then brought directly to Marijoa. After that, through forming a deep sea contract, her mind was altered and she was adopted into the Mammayer family, eventually living in Marijoa as she is now. And this all means that even among the Gorosei, there may be someone whose mind has been completely rewritten by the deep sea contract. And one of the strongest candidates for that is Nasujiro. For starters, he wielded the first kitetsu, and his entire appearance resembles that of the Wano Kuni's samurai style. While the other Gorosei wear elegant black suits, he is the only one dressed in white traditional Japanese clothing, which is major detail to pay attention to. There was even an SBS question once asking, are the suits that Gorosei wear high-end designer brands? And Oda Sensei answered, there's a luxury suit brand in the East Blue's Nagagutsu Kingdom called Nyorunyo Nyarumani, and the Gorosei wear only their custom-made suits. Despite that, Nasujiro alone always wears Japanese clothing rather than the suit. And after the battle in Wano, when the Navy reported that Zunisha had disappeared into the fog, he responded, in that case, Wano will not open its borders. Wano kuni no kaigoku wa nai. Speaking as if he personally understood Wano Kuni's traditions. All of this strongly suggests that Nasujiro's originate are in Wano Kuni. Now, let's talk about the Kitetsu blade he currently owns. There's a very high chance that the entire Kitetsu series was crafted by the Kozuki clan over generations. We know this because the one who forged the third Kitetsu was Tenguyama Hitetsu, whose real identity is Kozuki Sukiyaki. And in early Wano arc, we also saw second Kitetsu. Nidai Kitetsu literally means second generation Kitetsu. Luffy carried it around briefly, and Sukiyaki explained that it was made by Kotetsu, who he described as my ancestor. This means the ancestor of the Kozuki clan forged the second Kitetsu. So if the second Kitetsu and third Kitetsu were both crafted by the Kozuki family, then it's extremely likely that the first Kitetsu, Shodai Kitetsu, was also made by them. And I believe the Kozuki clan member who forged the first Kitetsu was one of the samurai who lived 800 years ago during the Boys' Century. It's also very possible that Nasujiro fought alongside the Kozuki clan as a Wano Kuni's samurai back then. In that case, the soulsmith of Kozuki clan who worked during the Boys' Century likely entrusted the first Kitetsu, their masterpiece, to Nasujiro, who may have been one of the strongest swordsmen in Wano Kuni at that time. Wano Kuni is a country that's been waiting for Joy Boy, so it was almost certainly a nation that stood in opposition to the ancient power structure of the world government. And if Nasujiro really fought as a Wano Kuni samurai back then, I think he ultimately lost against the overwhelming strength of Imu, the true devil behind everything. After his defeat, Imu probably forced him into a deep sea contract, rewriting his mind and turning him into the strongest possible soldier to keep at their side. And that brings up one more point, the fact that he goes by the name Eden Baron. No, just like with Gunko, I think this name was assigned to him afterward. Originally, he must have had completely different name, and when he was turned into a member of God's Knights, He was given the surname of one of the 19 royal families. But there's another possibility we should consider. Before the Kozuki clan, Wano Kuni may have been ruled by a completely different dynasty. At the top level of Marijoa, the 19 kings who founded the world government each left behind the swords as a symbol of their oath. Among those swords, which are mostly Western style, there is a one blade that looks mistakeably like a Japanese katana. This means that before the Kozuki clan, the ruler of Wano Kuni may have been connected to the world government. In other words, the ancient king of Wano Kuni before Kozuki rule might have been one of the original 19 allied kingdoms. And there's one more interesting clue about the Kitetsu and Nasujiro carries. Do you remember the components found in the weapons exported from Dressrosa? The mineral is called Kitekko. And the moment you hear that name, the sound immediately makes you think of Kitetsu, Kitekko, and Kitetsu. Since this mineral can only be mined in limited regions, it's extremely likely that it also exists in Wano Kuni, the country that produces some of the strongest materials in the One Piece world, like sea stone and the poneglyphs, which means the reverse could also be true. The Kitetsu series of swords may have been named Kitetsu because they were forged using this very mineral Kitekko. And considering Doflamingo was connected to Kaido, who essentially controlled Wano Kuni, it makes sense that this mineral was extracted, processed in Dressrosa's weapon factories, and then traded through the underground network. According to Nekomamushi, the Kozuki clan originally came from the lineage of stone masons, and they were the ones who created the poneglyphs. So that means the Kitetsu blade were likely forged using the same mineral, Kitekko, combined with Kozuki clan's stone crafting techniques. In other words, the Kitetsu swords are the product of that same ancient craftsmanship and the same legendary material. Let's also take a look at the kanji used in Kitekko. The first character is Sake. The middle character reads Tetsu, meaning iron. And the last character reads Ko, meaning steel. By the way, this is common misunderstanding, but when people hear the word sake, may instantly think of Japanese rice wine. But sake actually refers to any alcoholic beverage over 1% alcohol, like wine, beer, whiskey, all of it. So if the kanji for sake is used in the name of mineral Kitekko, that suggests something interesting. Some kind of alcohol-based ingredient might be used to increase the durability of poneglyphs or weapons. And that specific alcohol could very well be Binks sake. Binks no sake. Now, when you hear the word sake in One Piece, who comes to mind? Definitely Zoro. And his lineage traces back to the Shimotsuki clan of Wano Kuni, and the fact that he ended up wielding the Sandai Kitetsu is probably not coincidence. By the way, every week I share this kind of detailed Japanese language breakdown with Dawn Dusk Publishing members, so make sure to check it out if you're interested. In Egghead, we finally got to see Zoro and Nasujiro cross blades, and it was clear that both of them immediately recognized the presence of Kitetsu. What makes this even more interesting is the technique Zoro used there, the two-sword style, Rashomon. This is the same technique he used back when he sliced the sea train blocking the Rocketman's path clean in half. And Rashomon is also the title of a famous short story by the early 20th century Japanese writer Ryunosuke Akutagawa. He's not this Ryunosuke though. The theme of that story are the meaning of the living and what is good and evil. When Zoro first used this technique, Oda Sensei inserted this line: "Your justice must weigh heavy, but I've got things I'm carrying too." It was the moment Zoro's justice and the T-Bone's justice collided. And now, Zoro uses the same technique on Nasujiro, perfectly mirroring Vegapunk's broadcast to the world, questioning what exactly are good and evil. And there's also a fun detail here. Back during the T-Bones fight, Zoro said, "I've got things I'm carrying too." But right before this egghead fight, Zoro was literally being carried on Jinbei's shoulders, which is why Jinbei's technique names was Fishman Jujutsu, Kataguruma, shoulder carry. A neat little connection. Also, the technique Zoro used on Nasujiro wasn't just Rashomon, it has extra phrase attached to it. Gokuraku Anyo Rashomon. This comes from Gokuraku Anyo Jodo, which is Buddhism referred to world of perfect peace, a realm free from the suffering, the pure land where Buddhas reside. In that world, those who are born there transcend the cycle of reincarnation and their lifespan is infinite. That lines up exactly with Nasujiro, someone who thanks to deep sea contract has become an undying being who has essentially transcended death. And since Nasujiro comes from the same space as Imu, a being heavily associated with Buddhist imagery, Imu's name is written in katakana, but if we convert to kanji, it becomes Buddha. And traveled through the abyss to reach Egghead, it makes perfect sense that Oda Sensei would have Zoro use a technique prefixed with Gokuraku Anyo. And we still don't know what kind of space exists inside the abyss, but it might be something like Demon Realm, or even Buddhist-style Hell, a deep, completely separate world. And Nasujiro once told Harold, "The day you become a knight, you'll learn the true depth of this world." That may not have been just about Imu's existence, it could have been hinting at some kind of other world in the One Piece universe, something very close to Demon Realm. After all, a single Devilfruit user can create entire worlds like Mirror World, or Uta World. So it wouldn't be strange at all if Imu had created an Imu world, or something that functions as a little demon realm. There's also another other world that's been mentioned in One Piece. The Land of the Dead, Yomi no Kuni. It's a place Brook went to in his soul form right before he revived. Nasujiro transforms into Bakotsu, a yokai-like horse skeleton that attacks with freezing cold. That the nature of that cold feels very similar to Brook's, almost certainly something that originates from Yomi no Kuni as well. That's why I think there's a good chance Nasujiro and possibly the other elders have once reached Yomi no Kuni, just like Brook did. No, Wano Kuni clearly has a strong cultural concept of the Land of Dead, Yomi no Kuni, and we've seen Brook's soul return from that place, so we can safely assume that the realm where the soul of the dead gathered does exist somewhere in the One Piece world. And maybe the Grim Reaper Zoro saw after his fight with Orwell was actually a messenger from that very same Yomi no Kuni. So from here on out, I'll keep breaking down each new chapter from the perspective of someone reading the Japanese version. If you notice anything interesting yourselves, feel free to tell me in the comments or send me a message. And I also take on the private Japanese lessons as well as translation and marketing work for people running business toward Japan. So I plan to focus even more on that going forward. If you're interested, reach out anytime on Instagram or by email. Alright then, see you in the next video.
Imu is Haki itself.
The biggest hint comes from Brookside. My soul emits an energy that's almost solid, so it can exist in this world. Imu is doing the same thing, constantly releasing energy. And because he has lived for 800 years, that energy is being refined over centuries. Eventually becoming the overwhelming powerful Haki he now possesses. In other words, Imu isn't just a Haki user.
His very existence